Mr. Katongore, the chairperson of the forum, all the other leaders, and the members of the forum. Buli muntu yenna kye kyasiga kye kyakungula. Bible bwetugamba, that's what the Bible says. Whatever man sows, that's what he reaps. So when I see your forum here, this is exactly what the NRM planted. From the 1960s. Even before colonialism, this part of the world had been weakened by the traditional leaders who were fighting one another, although the population are the same. After the collapse, there was one kingdom of the Batwezi, which started around 900 AD and had united a big part of Uganda and even Congo and parts of Tanzania and northern Rwanda. But it collapsed around 1400, that dynasty. Then you had these smaller kingdoms, these ones we are talking about now. Buganda, Bunyoro, Ankole, Rwanda, Karagwe, Tanzania, where these narrow chiefs were fighting one another, squandering our time. You can imagine when Christopher Columbus discovered the USA in 1492. We had kingdoms here. That was soon after the collapse of the Batwezi dynasty. So for 500 years, these little kings were disturbing us here, fighting stupid wars. Then the Europeans came and conquered them, captured them like grasshoppers, because they were fighting one another. In Ethiopia, they were a bit better. They defeated the Italians, because the Ethiopians were more united. Now, when the Europeans came, apart from the tribal nonsense which the kings had been pushing here, they now added the conflicts of Europe. Because you know Europe had been having religious Europe had been being mismanaged also by the conflicts between the Pope and the Protestants, which started with Henry VIII in 1530, when England broke away from the Pope. Conflicts there. Then, of course, you had the conflicts in the Middle East and Europe between the Christians and the Muslims. So, these were also brought here. Can you imagine? These were also brought by the preachers who came. The Muslims from Zanzibar came preaching Islam, Islam, Islam. The British missionaries who came 1877 came preaching sectarianism of Protestants. The Catholics came 1879, started preaching the sectarianism of the Catholics. So, and we even had religious wars here. Can you imagine? You can hear that these wonderful people, the missionaries, they arrived here 1870. The Muslims came 1841. That was the first person, Ibrahim. Then the Protestants came 1877. Then the Catholics 1879. But by 1890, there were religious wars here. After 10 years, that they were killing one another for Christ. Can't believe the idiocy. So, then the Protestants were supported by Captain Lugard, who was here. They gained the upper hand, here in Uganda especially. So that conflict went on, because after that, then they distributed the chieftainship according to religion. Muslims were given here, Catholics here, the Protestants there. And that nonsense went on until independence. And when we got independence, that's what destroyed Uganda. And has destroyed other countries. If you see a great country like Sudan, Sudan was a very powerful country. The biggest country in Africa, 1 million square miles, 10 times the size of Uganda. Destroyed by that nonsense of the politics of identity, religion, and tribe. Therefore, in the 60s, some of us were part of those parties. But the good thing is that we were also reading what was happening in the world. So some of us were part of those parties, DP, UPC, Kabaka. But by 1965, we said, because we had also some examples in the world, the unification of Germany, the unification of Italy, the rise of capitalism in Europe, the French Revolution, 1789. So we started seeing the difference between the politics of identity. I am Catholic, I am Protestant, I am Munyankore, I am Muganda, with the politics of interests. What is more important, interests or identity? And when we analyze it, we say, Like, for instance, me, even in the 1950s, when the economies were very backward here, but I went to school and I was able to pay for the education because of two people, of two categories of people. Category number one, Amos Kaguta. who had inherited cattle from my grandfather and was able to sell some and pay for my education. But the second category were all non-Banyankore. There was a Muganda man called Warusimbi Mpanga who was buying cows from, I think, all parts of Uganda, but including our area, for the Kampala meat market. Warusimbi Mpanga would come and buy our cows, and Kaguta gets money, buys clothes for his wives, and pays my school fees, and pays government tax. There wasn't many things they were doing. Now, the other man, who was also buying our cows, was a Muganda man a fat man from Barara, called Bukenya. Banyankore were calling him Bukenya, but his real name was Bukenya. But the Banyankore have problems with those words. They always add their own letters. So Bukenya, a Muslim man, Muganda, but of Mbarara, was buying cows for the Mbarara small meat market. Then in 1956, a new buyer came. He was a white man called Shea. He built a house at Ishaka, and he started buying our cows for the Kirembe market. This Kirembe mine had started, so they needed meat. You can see the three people who bought our cows. None of them was a Munyankore. So my education, there's no Munyankore who can claim that he supported me other than Amos Kaguta. So therefore, this now raises the question, what is more useful for you? Identity, I am this, I am that, I am that. Or interests. So that's why we started saying, these people are misleading us in the 1960s. That's how we started the student movement around 1965. Yes, we remained part of the old groups, but we started study groups in the universities. And then 1967, we started the group in the University of Dar es Salaam called USAF. And that's how, eventually, when Amin came, we were able to form Fronasa, different from the old groups, based now on the 4 principles, the ones which we talk about now. Patriotism, love Uganda. Why? Because you need it for your own prosperity. Like me, I got education because of Uganda and Amos Kaguta. Uganda didn't pay for me for much of the time, but they gave me opportunity, which Ankole, my area, was not giving. Yes, the Banyankore were also helping me because Warusimbi Mpanga would not have come to buy cows if the Banyankore did not have many cows, if they did not have the numbers. Abanyankore basanyuse kati. So, Abanyankore banyambako by having the same product like Kaguta had, so that marketing was easy. Because if it was only Kaguta with one cow, they wouldn't have come. But beyond that, Uganda, oh yeah. Love Uganda, because why? Because you need it for your prosperity. And then we also said, for instance, if you study the unification of Germany, by 1870, Germany was not one country. They were all Germans, but they were in 39 kingdoms, independent. Prussia, Saxony, Bavaria, 39 of them. So the middle class, like you people, rose up in Prussia. You are now a new social group, you fellows. You are not peasants. Peasants peasants are there. But you now, you are the middle class. People who depend on what we call profit. Profit is the difference between the cost of production and the final price. That is the profit. Katumwe, ekibayimirizawo akagambo ako ka profit. You are profit makers. You are the middle class. Different from the peasants, abakoranga ekida kyonka, working for because they are working for their stomach, the peasants. And then the feudalists. Feudalists were getting rent from the peasants. But so the feudalists were living by obsuru. Obsuru, emitoijo mu Ruganda mwekiri okutoija, to bring tribute. Tribute mu Ruganda kiki? Envujo. Abaganda bawodewo. So the feudalists were living by busuru from the peasants. But the middle class, who are called the bourgeoisie in France, were living by profit. The new group who lived by profit had come up. So they were now in Prussia. They are the ones who worked with Bismarck for the unit of Germany to become one, those 39 kingdoms to become one, because they had realized the issue of a united Germany being a better sphere for money making than the separate kingdoms. Even France, although France had been one kingdom for a long time, but there were internal provinces, Burgundy, Brittany, I don't know what, to go from one province to another province, you had to pay tax. Internal taxes, there were internal taxes. Because of the warlords, there were these barons. So those internal provinces of France were called fiefdoms. But the capitalists, you people, say, tukoye nemisoro ye kunsaro. We are tired with the internal taxes. That's why the middle class, the bourgeoisie, we are part of the French Revolution. Tukoye, get a name, sorry, Yabami, because it was the feudalists who had those taxes. Tukoye name, sorry, yeah. So therefore, what we are seeing here is you, the new middle class, coming up and discovering the interests of integration, of a united Uganda, and also by implication a united East Africa. Kubanga nakyo mukyogeddeko in your memorandum, it was there, but it's not, you didn't bring it out very, very clearly, but it is implied in what you are saying. So therefore, what we are seeing here is the maturing of what we started in the 1960s of rejecting the politics of identity and insisting on the politics of interest. So I congratulate you, and I welcome your endorsement. I hope my Kasita people are now fully converted. Kanga Kasita abakasita byokusaka babivaako kubanga basakanga nnyo okusaka kati mwakuleka okusaka.
Sebo taata, Your Excellency, weebale nnyo weebalira ddala otuwa omukisa guno taata okubaako ne gye twogera. Naye Sebo Association wazijjawo, watuwa Federation of Uganda Traders Association zifuta mwe twegattira kati. Weebale okutuwa obwegasi obwa Federation of Uganda Traders Association futa. Era twawanise nti Museveni abasuubuzi tuli naawe ku mulembe guno, naffe twagala tuyigiriza bino. Kaakati Sebo Your Excellency, abasuubuzi bano boolaba bakwagala nnyo. Era olunaku olwaleero bazze okujaguliza awamu naawe, naye nga taata tuyina ennyonta nnene, tusaba okkirize naffe watuwa omukisa okulaba. Era kyekituleese wano mu maanyi, bannange mwanirize omukulembeze w'eggwanga lyaffe Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Ssaalongo ogunde Sebo, ne maama waffe Misa Kabanda mulengedde naye atuuse minisita waffe wa Kampala. Sebo tukwebaza. Abasuubuzi bano tebagenda mu kkooti bwe baafuna ekizibu ky'amataba. Taata kkiriza mukama wange, abasuubuzi bano nga bwe bali wano mu bwegasi obwawamu nga tetwemenyeemu, otuwa olunaku taata tukusisinkaneko naffe.
Kale.
Sebo
toyanza nnyo Presidenti.
Kale PPS, you should bring me these traders.
Toyanza nnyo Presidenti. Amanya Katongole Godfrey. Amanya Katongole Godfrey President.
Taata luli PPS watugamba atuwe ddeeti nga tuli emuyenga n'essaawa ya kaakati babadde tebatuliiko. Tusaba mukama wange omulagire agituwe kati kuba tuli mu kusoberwa okutagambika, twetaaga kulaba tulabe nga.
Kale PPS, where are you?
Twayanza nnyo Presidenti. Amanya Katongole Godfrey.
I will give you only 1 hour because 1 hour in the evening.
Sebo.
Because in the.
Twayanza nnyo Presidenti. Katongole Godfrey.
Hello. Bagenda kubandeetera ekisozi. Saawa emu akawungeezi.
Amina Presidenti.
Okay, twayanza.
Presidenti.
Kale mwebale mutuure.
So Presidenti.
Mwebale mutuure basi, that's enough. Kati Now, boss. Now, there was a very clever man, Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong was able to guide China. It's now the second most powerful country in the world. And he did it by analyzing the social groups like the ones here. The middle class, he divided it into 3 parts. And he said that there are people he called the petty bourgeoisie, the small capitalists. Those, you put them in their own category. Then there are people you called the comprador bourgeoisie, the ones who are foreign agents, who are agents of foreign interests. So what I've been trying to tell Kasita is to say, please, stop being agents of foreign interests. These were importing other people's products. And that's why you call them comprador. Comprador is a French word meaning agent of somebody else. Then there's what you call the national bourgeoisie. These are the Katongolese now, the ones who help Uganda to be more independent. Recently, I had an interview with the Gen Z. Have you heard of Gen Z? I had a big interaction with them at Rwakitura. I had never really met these young people. And one of their questions was, why are we taxing imports? They didn't know, nobody had ever told them. Then I said, you young people, do you know of Rwade, a disease called Echikulukuto? Those imports are Echikulukuto, hemorrhage, because you are taking blood from us to other people. So therefore, the part of the success why you say Uganda is now stable, strong, is because of import substitution. As Katongolese speech should be printed in the magazine, because it was thorough and comprehensive. And it captured our point number 5 of the NRM 10 points program, building an independent, integrated, self-sustaining economy. That's what he was talking about in detail, by sector by sector. So therefore, when I'm here, really, what you are saying is music to my ears. I'm very happy to see that what we fought for has come to be realized, and I welcome you, and I wish you good luck. And after the elections, we are going to do more, because we have more capacity now with our oil flowing next year. It will be easier to deal with the infrastructure, especially the railway, and more of the power dams, so that we really have low costs of, I'm glad we have reached at 5 cents per kilowatt hour. For some industries, we should reach for all manufacturers. That's what we are aiming at, not just for the big ones. The distortion was caused by the other group, which people brought here, the two problems. Bujagari, people who borrowed money for Bujagari did it carelessly, and then the other group, which was Umeme, the one which was. So once we kicked them out, because Isimba's power is 4.8 cents. Karuma is 4-point-something cents. Narubare, the one in Njeru, is 1.2 cents. 1.2. The other one across Kira is 1.2 cents. So the distorter is Bujagari and Umeme and all that. These were the ones, because Bujagari was 16 cents initially. So you wonder how would have imagined. Now it's about 8 cents, I think. Then we have got subsidized. So I have nothing but happiness.